Hello everyone and welcome to the Fry It and Find Out Lab. Guys, today we're going to do something really cool. We're just going to use our one wire energy and we're going to do some various tests. If you got one that you'd like to see, shout it out. But let's just start off with our little UFO here. This is the top of my Tesla coil. As you can see, what it is plastic and it's just aluminum tape. So it's got a little wire sticking out. So when I do the AC on my Tesla coils, but today, one wire energy time. So let's go ahead and take this light right here. Let's start out the show. We're just going to light it up. Turn on the energy. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? Loves it when you touch it. Be interacting. Doesn't like that. Like that. Mess with this a little bit. Everybody says there's a little sound here. See if we can't pick it up. Look at that. It's just awesome. All right, now I got my screen over here set up, so let's see if we can look at this. What's up, guys? Hopefully you can see me over here while I'm doing this. I moved my screen a little closer so I can read the comments. Yeah, I'm all ready to go, man. All right, so what are we doing here? Look at that. I just have to move my hand close to it. See, it turns off, turns back on. That's so cool. Yeah, you know, some of this one wire energy stuff is really interesting, man. There's a lot of things this thing does. You know, normally you get a Tesla coil, put out a little radiant energy. That's okay. You go ahead and you put out some sparks out the top. Totally awesome. But this is special. We're going to start playing with some water here. We're going to play with what I like to call an energy well. So this, I think, is way cool, right? And I just love the way it interacts with stuff. So we'll just try it on the outside since we got some time. Look at that. Just right next to it. You want to see the Joker coil? Yeah, I got that ready to go. It's not all charged up, but I'll get it going. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of this. I'm going to turn it off. I like this experiment, and this is basically how do you create a field in something? And there's a lot of windings on this, guys. It's just a primary for one of my Tesla coils. So it's doing experiments on stuff. And you come across this interesting fact. If I take this, and it's got a little bit of crystal in the bottom, there's no salt in this one. It is simply quartz. So why do I like using quartz? Well, I like to interact with the quartz. And most people don't understand this. At some of the frequencies that you run, you can actually interact with quartz. And it has to do with the structure of quartz and the way it's built and the oxygen and silicon atoms. So, or however you want to say that. it basically puts it in there, and then I charge the water with it. So each thing interacts. You cannot interact with quartz without water. That is a fact. You cannot run high voltage into quartz and get energy out the other side. You will literally have to spark over it and do nothing to it. You need quartz to you need water to activate the quartz. So, turn on the well. We know that it lights up here. We know that it lights up better here. We could see it. So how do you know that the water is actually charged in this? You go, okay, well, the outside shell's charged. You see, okay, all right. That winding's charged. We know that. That's fine. We know that we're getting it still here. It's here. It completely lights up brighter in the water. That's how we know we're charging it. You could see it dimmer, brighter. And there's more heat to it, to be honest with you. It's a pretty interesting fact. We're really exciting that gas right there. Now we can stuff it down further in there. We could just take it out. That's at 12.9 volts. So we're a little over 2 amps right there just running this. Let's see what everybody says here. Very well, yeah, this power is totally interesting. Let's see. Glass also has a capacitance, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I need a Santa hat. Yes. Yes, I do. And I should have bought one. Yeah, the sound's pretty awesome. You know, you can't hear it in person. So check this out, guys. You guys are hearing the cool sounds of when it goes in something, out of something. I'm standing in the room and I cannot hear any of it. My mic itself is picking up all of it. So what I can hear it, this thing has no filter on it. So it doesn't take away any frequency. So it tells you what's going on in the room. Most of the mics I have are noise canceling. This one, however, is not, which makes this whole thing so much better. So let's go ahead and switch this out. Let's go on and we'll click this right here. We'll take this one out. Now, this will make no difference whatsoever, but I wanted to show you this. This right here is tin foil on the outside. Now, we actually have salt in here. So let's take a look. You can see it in there. Not exactly the prettiest solution anymore. I'll have to restart. So why do I leave it dirty? That's kind of one of the little secrets going on here. I'm changing the molecules in the water. And I'm changing the state that they're in. Because I'm doing that, the water will stay in a charged state. Now, will it work right away just with pure water? Yeah, it will. But when you leave it alone like this, you let it sit, you can put it into a charged state. It also wipes the memory of the water. Now I can impart memory onto it with the frequency I put into it. So we go here. It's kind of halfway Leyden jar, halfway not. Mostly just old man creation. See, the energy still lights up there. Not a big surprise. So is the glass interacting with the bulb in the way you think it would, being a capacitor? The answer is no. It's not. Why? Because although there's silicon in it, it doesn't react the same way. The water, however, does. See, it's imparting all the charge onto the water. If you saw my high voltage experiments, guys, the high voltage does not like to penetrate the water. This is opposite of that. So we're working on the opposite side of hot energy. We're working with cold energy or negative energy here. So this energy likes to work with the water. The hot energy does not like to go through the water. Now, could it eventually, if you get it high enough? Probably. I don't have the equipment, nor would I try it, but it could. So I won't say never. But this energy likes what we're doing here. You can touch this in here. It's not a problem. Guys, cold energy means it's cold. So what does that essentially mean that we're doing to the energy? And I guess it basically comes down to a fundamental understanding here. And this is why people don't understand cold energy. But you're going to, because I'm going to tell you. So you have your wire. You have your magnetic field. Now you have your dielectric field. This is basic Steinmetz. That's as simple as it gets. What happens when you go from hot energy? The field goes out here. This field interacts with any magnetic field. In order to change it to cold energy, I now need that dielectric to be inside of my magnetic field. So here's my magnetic field. Here's my dielectric field. Here's my wire. Now, how do I know that I'm achieving that? It's because it defeats Lenz's law. You see, all that back EMF you're getting or that hard trudging through the circuit when you take all of this magnetism from the magnets, when you spin them, it puts out that field. Well, what happens in the wire is it induces the field, and then the dielectric of the magnetic field comes out. And that's what's meeting the magnetic field. So then you get hard points in there where it has torque and it messes with it. To defeat that, you have to have the dielectric on the inside, meaning you have to have cold energy or negative energy. When you do that, now you're able to defeat Lenz's law but still pick up the power. This is very interesting because only negative energy interacts with quartz. Hot energy does not. Now, with that said, let me express to you something very important. A lot of people out there calculate how things work in over unity with the ether and things like that, and they're using hot energy to calculate it. That is 100% the wrong way to go. It is an absolute lie when they say it. This is the difference between reading a physics paper and doing experiments. When you do the experiments, you can understand where the dielectric field is and why it's working this way. When you simply read the paper and you tell people about it, you have no idea where it is. You still calculate things on hot energy. It's a failure. And it's not because you knew better and you lied to somebody. It's because physics does not understand the negative energy. So when people come up with patents for over unity, and let's think about this. Every time they run them with hot energy. And they go, well, it doesn't work. I can't make it work. Why can't I make it work? Well, the first key to knowing if you have an over unity circuit is you look for resistors. And why is that? Resistors put heat in the system. So when you have a resistor in your system, you're still on hot energy. And you could say, well, you can't use an NPN because it's always hot, so then it has to be a PNP, but in order to get the 0.7 of a volt in order to turn it on, you're going to need to use a resistor. So how do you get cold energy? Well, you run an NPN in reverse. You see, you don't want to push hot energy to the system You want to pull cold energy through the system. So whatever direction you're going in your circuit, now take that negative and make it the line that goes through everything, not the positive. That sounds wrong, and I know that, but it absolutely works. It's the difference between understanding a patent for cold energy and not understanding it at all. You see, cold energy is a state they've known about for a very long time. There's people who've done Tesla tech, and they tell you about the cold energy or the negative side of the energy. And a lot of people don't listen because they still conventionally in their head can't get it out. They can't get that hot energy circuit out of there. They can't stop pushing that positive everywhere. And then when they pull a PNP, they go, well, that transistor is negative, so it must be cold, right? No, it's still not. You're going to run a PNP and you're going to get hot energy through it, even if you change and pull it through the other way because you have a resistor. One of the most common things in any over unity device, if it has no resistors, stop right where you are, look at what it is, and run everything through the negative to the positive, not the positive to the negative. If you do that, a lot of these things will start to make sense. Now, let's go ahead and read some comments. Absolutely something incredible. Yeah, well, that's why Holy Santa Claus, huh? I know a lot more than what I say, even though I don't speak in physics terms, guys, and that's because I'm not a physicist. So, yeah, iron cores, yeah. So, let me just do this real quick. I'm just going to look through it real quick, and I want to answer something for everybody. Yeah, I did. So, guys, let me explain this. I'm not a physicist. That's not what I do. I'm a guy in my garage who understands how things work. I build them. I like to teach people how to build them. But I am no way anything close to a physicist. And I would suggest any physicist out there watch, because you could start writing patents based on what I do, because I start pulling things out that you don't necessarily see every day. One wire energy, how do you see it? Well, what if I simply just told you this? When I create this field in here, I'm creating a partial part of the ether. How do I know? You see, that's kind of one of the weird things, right? How do you know? Well, it's non-magnetic. You see, the ether's built of scalar waves. And in order to understand this, you better understand scalar. And what is scalar? It's just a pure energy potential. That's what it is. We're not looking so much at RF as we are a whole different understanding of the way this works. So no matter what I put in here, as long as it can carry capacitance, it'll make something light up. Only scalar can do that because it's energy. It's something that to wrap your head around is kind of hard at first. But then once you get it and you go, okay, well, energy, huh? So you can put whatever you want in there as long as it has something that'll light it up, right? Well, yeah, pretty much. It doesn't matter if it's the little wire. It doesn't matter if it's this jar or this jar. You know, anything that I put in there, it's going to light it up in energy. It's one of the fundamentals of the ether. Guys, when I tell you I've created something special, I did. There's people out there who have created this as well. And when I tell you it wipes out the memory on the water itself, it does. It is an absolute fact. It doesn't change. So I call it an energy well. You can call it whatever you want. Is it the first steps towards getting our zero point energy? Yeah. It's the fundamental basis on which you're going to build your 0 point energy. There's your big secret right there. This one wire energy is going to do it. Now, did Tesla know it? And we got to look at the hairpin circuit to understand that he did. You see, he was able to light things up in water. He's able to touch the coils when they're on. There's really no problem with it, guys. It's getting our understanding right. So if I told you I had a capacitor like his, a variable capacitor, just like this and this, right? And I move it and I'm able to change the capacity. What is he doing? Well, he has the field goes out over this, right? That's pretty simple. When you add a second one in, now what's happening? You now reverse your field on this side. This side's hot. This side's going to be cold. When you do that, what are you doing? You're taking your dielectric and something that you just created on this side, and you're forcing it back towards the center instead of being on the outside. That is the main component from going from hot energy to cold energy. This is how you flip it. It's in his hairpin circuit. People get lost. I find it funny. They tell me you have to use the spark gap. Well, if I was in a spark gap Tesla coil, I absolutely would. There's no question about that. But I run it on my ZVS. There's no spark in it. Not like that. It's a simple switching. So do I need the spark in it? No, I don't. What's the other side of that patent? The other side of that patent is basically two plates. So it was something that Tesla used for medical. Because we're not allowed to talk about it on YouTube, I can't tell you what it does. I can tell you it's cold energy. I can tell you that it was non-harmful to the touch, as you're going to see today in all the experiments. But it's absolutely what he did. You see, when I put the rod down the center, I'm changing it. Now, you say, but it's not this, it's not this capacitor, it's not this capacitor. Calm down. I just changed the geometry on you. This is why you learn geometry in school. I created the center. All I did was looked at the air gap that they had there, and I knew which way the hot energy pushed the dielectric in this part here to get cold energy. So as you look at this, and I tell you the same thing, I'm using the air, and I'm taking a field. This would be magnetic if it was the primary of my main coil. And I'm forcing my dielectric to the center of this rod right here, or the light tube. Therefore, it's going to be cold coming out. That is the simple switch in this whole thing. That's Tesla's secret on it. That's how you switch from hot energy to cold energy, by moving your dielectric. It's as simple as that, guys. Let's take some more comments. I don't know, guys. I don't do I don't do anything with free energy in that way. I don't want the power company after me. If it comes up in the test, they'll show it to you. But past that, I don't know how much I'm going to go into it. So let me just clarify. Do I know it creates over unity? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I know how to build it? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I want to put it out right now with the way some people are reacting to the energy? No. And I think a lot more disclosure has to come out in order for those secrets to be shared. And unfortunately, it can be used for a bad thing. I do not want to destabilize any economy. That's not my goal in life. I think this tech has to come out to the point where people understand that it's out there. The world has time to react, and when we give it out. So, did it come up in testing? Yeah, it did. Do I know how to create it? Yeah, I did. Do I give it to anyone? No. One guy. That's it. Back and forth. Because he's created it too. So, no harm, no foul. But is it there? Yeah, it is. It's absolutely there. Do I know how to apply it? Or basically, it's something special, but you don't know how? I do. Let's see. When the bell rings, you ring. That's cool. So, let's see if we can't get some more sound, guys, out of some of this stuff. Let's see what happens. I got another Tesla coil. I'm going to put this number 2 wire back in the hole. And then we're going to go to this, because I'll show you. Oh, it might help if I plug it in. That's what I get for demonstrating things. Okay. Misfire. So we know it lights up. Let's deconstruct this a little bit. I'll move that wire. Take my little cap out. By the way, this is my gravity flyer cap. So when I run it, I put the wire down on this little hole right here, and it goes down into here and protects it. Works out really well for when you just want to stuff it in there. It doesn't hit the sides or anything and have any adverse reactions, because it will spark on the inside if you get it too close to the winding on the outside. So we see it's lit. Let's see if there's enough room here. Here's the thing. You see it lit even better, right? It's as simple as that. It's working the same way because it's the same type of energy. Pretty interesting, huh? You can just take these coils, these number 2 coils, and put them in there. So let's just take this. Let me show you. Aluminum foil, PVC. Nothing special about it. Now, there is something special you could do with this, which is really cool. Well, let's just turn it on first. No problem lighting up. None at all. We can go a distance with it if you want. So, some people ask, can you do this and make a high voltage capacitor? The answer is yes. Remember, you're putting in energy into this, a scalar energy. So what is it going to do? It's going to penetrate everything. But it doesn't stop the process from working correctly. So if you wanted to put a clear sheet around it, put on another layer of aluminum foil, put another clear sheet, another layer of aluminum foil, all turn the same direction. It's as simple as that. Do you get sparks out of it? I don't know. I didn't do it. Did I hook up several layers of this and try it? Yes, I did. And it absolutely puts out more energy. And it shouldn't be a surprise. I know to some people it might be. It's the simple understanding of the foil and the capacitor you're trying to create. It still works as a capacitor, just like we saw the water. This still works as a capacitor, but it's in the energy. This will still work as a capacitor inside the energy. So what's the true way to do this with just hooking up your ZVS directly to this? And it has to do with layering. So if I took some aluminum tape and I put a primary around it and use my aluminum tape as my secondary, could I get it to resonate like a Tesla coil? The answer is yes. Why? I'm creating multiple winds of aluminum to continuously make a secondary. Can we do it with this pipe? The answer is yes. Tape, 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 a little bit overlapping each time. It'll continue to build. There you go. It's as simple as that. A Tesla coil doesn't necessarily do what you think it does, but it does do special things. So this is the reason we push the Tesla coil, guys. So let's take some more comments. Yeah, put it out. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that is cool. Tech support. So, yeah, I drew it last time, guys, and I had it on my board. Let's see if I can get it out without hurting myself. Tesla hairpin circuit. Right here. So, what part am I talking about? Let's look right here. Sorry if the voice because of the board. Right here. Air in between the whole thing. You could see the point. It looks like two pitchforks going into each other. Simple capacitance. What do we do here? As this field builds around this secondary one right here, its dielectric goes to the inside and turns cold. Now, let's see if I actually have a pin over here for this. I really need a better whiteboard behind me, but so if I put out the field here, I'm forcing my dielectric to go on the inside right here. Now this will come out cold. This is hot. That's pretty simple, right? I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. So why is this the same? Now you see the regular circle around it. We put it to the center. It's even better than this. And why? Because 360 degrees, I'm forcing it to the center. I'm forcing all that dielectric inside the magnetic field. That's why the energy acts the way it does. So how do you know it works that way? In any cold circuit, if you put a ground to the end of it or heat as a capacitor bank, it pulls the energy through because, again, remember what I said about the circuit. It's pulling the energy through the circuit. Same thing here. It's like, how do I want to say this? If I wanted to tell you that I wanted the energy out and I want to pull it through, the best analogy I can give you is take the rod right here and think of it as a big straw. As soon as I put the straw in, what happens? You go over and you suck on the straw and you get a drink, right? You go, okay, well, this is pretty cool. Well, just think of cold energy the same way. When you put the straw in, you have to suck it out to get the drink, right? It's the same way. Now, will there naturally be pressure in it? Yes. But will it work better when you suck it through the whole thing? Yes. There's your understanding right there. So when you put a light bulb straight to it, well, I get more energy. And just understand it like this. I'm exciting the gas in this bulb, right? What does that mean? It means I'm heating up the bulb. So I'm pulling the energy through that straw into this bulb. Therefore, this bulb is going to get hot. The hotter it gets, the more energy it pulls through. It's now using it correctly. Now, it's lit up super bright. And you see, that's the understanding of it. It's your lightsaber. I need to get these shorter and in different colors, man, because that's just cool. Vroom, 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 vroom. But, oops. That's basically the understanding of the cold energy. These are cool, man, because you could do high voltage capacitors, stuff like that. So you go, okay, if you're using the cold energy in that, what if we want to do Don Smith's experiments? Guys, what do you think he's using? I mean, think about it. You're going to see a lot of them out there, and then you're going to see some funny guy goes over here, he pulls one of these numbers on you, okay? He'll take a wire just like this and take this, and at the end of the experiment with the second and third and fourth coil, or whatever he wants to put on it, he'll take this wire and he'll shove it right through the hole. And you're going, well, every time I looked at that before, I didn't know what he was doing. This energy plus this energy is now an equal energy. You see, because you're moving energy this way, you're moving energy inside the center, right? In order to get unity, you have to use both sides. That's pretty simple, right? That's not hard. We all can do it. But it explains the why some people put it back through the center of it. Now, the brilliance of this. Okay, let's go into this a little bit. Resonance is the best thing ever when you work with a Tesla coil. So, what do I mean by that? Okay. If I took this coil and I took this coil, can I get them to work the energy together? Yes, I can. What am I missing? Well, this one resonates, what, 427 kilohertz? This one over here resonates at 340 kilohertz. What am I missing? You say, well, the energy goes from one to the next and it lights up light bulbs. Well, that's good. It's fun. But with it out of resonance, I'm not getting all my energy. I'm leaving some on the table. It's no different than the transformer on the pole versus your house. Your house is not in resonance with that transformer because you could have a runaway transformer effect, which means power continues to build. Can you trick that effect and get it to continuously build and shut off when you want it to? If you are really good at coils, yes, you can. But what would be better? You see, I can hook these wires like a transmission line from here over to here and just hook it to my number 2 coil, right? And I've done the experiment, and yeah, it makes a fair transmission line, and yes, you can get energy out of it, which means you can start flipping fields. So, what does that mean? If I go from my hot side to my cold side, which is a rod down the center, I'll now get energy back out of my hot side, which is my number 2 coil. You say, well, okay, what if I want hot side to hot side? Well, all you're doing is adding this amount of wire and this amount of wire together. Now your frequency and resonance that you have to set on your primary here will be different. That's fair. We can reset it and get it in the correct resonance. But it's now acting as one Tesla coil, not two. So how do I get this Tesla coil to resonate that Tesla coil from across the table, right? No wires connected, just completely in resonance. I must add copper to the number 2 of this coil in order to equal that coil. Or I must change it. Now, if I connect it to the center, the frequency of this coil goes down. Just understand that. I'm adding more wire, therefore my frequency goes down. It's a fairly easy concept. Just remember the way it works. Frequency down, add more winding. That's it. I can hook it right here to my number 2. I can hook it to my secondary or my cold energy here. It'll go down. Either way, you're going to get it to go down. You're adding more capacitance in the circuit. Now it's just like changing the capacitors on my ZVS board. I can change those as well and put this thing in a different resonance frequency so that it matches this one. My actual distance that I've gotten with 2 Tesla coils, mind you, they both have to be grounded. One's not attached to the other one. The maximum distance I've gotten so far is 10 feet. Now, do not have perfect Tesla coils matching. If I didn't have to mess with the circuit to get it right, I'd put it in pure resonance and create my runaway, which is one of the tests I want to do. 10 feet's nothing to, be upset about. To get it 10 feet away for something that you're only going to put 20 volts into is extraordinary in a Tesla coil. So how do you know when you create it? Well, let me answer this so I'll answer some questions. So you have 2 Tesla coils. You put your light on this side, it could be interfered by this Tesla coil's energy, right? You bring this to the distance where this light shuts off. Then you put it on this side. As soon as you do, if you can get it to light up going out, you're in resonance with it. Now, could you be a little off on resonance? Yeah, it's like an AM radio station. So if it's at 50 on my AM radio station and say I'm at 60, right? Will it still pick it up? Yes. Will it be as strong? No. Just like your AM radio. Put it on the dot, it'll be completely strong as the first, okay? Maybe a little less. I mean, the only way to do it is to check it, right? So we'll have to do that. But the concept is there. I have it on my channel that I actually put it in sympathetic resonance. What does that mean? So the one on my channel shows 63 inches from one end of the table to the other. This is just grounded. This is running. I add more copper to it. That's the only connection is this to ground. And it runs. And it pulls from the other side about a foot. Sympathetic resonance, which means I would be at the radio station analogy, instead of being on 50, I'd be at 60, and I still hit it. It's kind of hard to cut the copper every time and get it perfect where you want it. It would be easier, by the way, with Ian's capacitance bank, because then I can flip a couple switches and put it in direct, perfect resonance no matter what the coils look like. Okay. What's the trick to quartz? I could tell you in a minute. Put it out. Okay. That one's cool. Right on. Gonna go draw it. Yeah. Well, just take your time and look at it. You're gonna find that I'm right. Dancing in the room, that's cool. How many piezoelectric discs can I hook up the Tesla coil? Well, I haven't hooked up multiple ones. I've only hooked up one, but it's sufficient to do the job. And turn the lights off. Yeah, I have ground up quartz in it. So it's not going to do a lot more, but I have to detach all the wires and stuff I have attached to me to get over there to turn off the light. I need to fix that, but yeah. Right on. Let's see, okay. Could you add the power to the layer? Well, the plastic wrap may break through on you with the high voltage, so you're going to tear that right up. What would I use? Slip sheets from like, you know when you do your little papers and you put them in your little slip sheet there? Something like that, or just a bit thicker than that's really good for this. Just remember that the thicker you go, the less energy you'll pass through to the other side of the aluminum when you're building one. So just try it a couple different ways and check the distance. But if you put it too thin, it'll just burn a hole right through it and your whole thing will be shot. Okay. Is the hairpin connected to the secondary of the coil? So in Tesla's hairpin circuit, yes. But you have to remember he's using a bipolar Tesla coil. So what does that mean? Basically means this. So bipolar Tesla coil is taking my Tesla coil like this and moving my winding to the center. Again, bipolar, okay? Same winding, bipolar. If it was two different windings, it'd be bifilar. We're doing bipolar. That's what he's using. Again, this winding would be stretched over the entire thing. Both the number 2 coil, this side and this side, connect directly over to it, to your capacitor. That's the way it's run. Bipolar Tesla coil is what he's using. So we look at our picture here, and you see the number, sorry, let me set it down. The number 1 winding goes throughout the entire thing. Just like that, like I described. The number 2 winding goes here and here. So you say, okay, well, in your Tesla coil, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because you go, generally you ground one side of your number 2. You don't have to in a bipolar Tesla coil. There's a difference. Can you hook it up one side to ground? Yeah, you can. One thing I'll warn you on, I tried diodes. Okay, and I showed it. And you put the diodes on there. And I guess I didn't listen to Sean well enough, and I should have. And it creates Rocky Mountains on your oscilloscope. What does that mean? So basically, instead of going like this, right, and going back down and going back up and creating a nice sine wave, you get up, not all the way down, then all the way down. You're going to Rocky Mountain because the diode is canceling out the bottom half of one of those. So it came up when we ran our AC Tesla coil. In order to get 13-inch sparks shooting out the top, you had to use AC, so you had to block off one side completely. So why is it a mountain instead of a continuously one side only? It's because you need 2 diodes in order to create it going up and then stopping at the middle and staying up here. That's 2 diodes. 1 diode, Rocky Mountain. So if you've ever taken your battery from your drill and used it on your Tesla coil, you get Rocky Mountain. Why is that? Because there's a diode in there that goes into the electrical board that is in most newer drills on their battery, so that you don't overcharge and protection like that. Basically a shut off for them. There's a diode in there that creates Rocky Mountain. So there you go. Oh. You told him to use Reynolds wrap? That's funny. I bet Jeremy got a kick out of that one. Reynolds wrap will blow a hole right through it. Oh, man. Yeah, holes. Yeah, you're creating holes. That's for sure. Sorry, I'm reading this real quick. It's been working great. Nice. Okay. Cold energy and constructive, huge Rodin coil as a toroid and shielding in a brass array. Okay. Number one, just so I can tell you what this comment is about. This gentleman here came up and met me. He bought a little cutter, vinyl cutter from me. And he also follows the channel. So he showed me his Tesla coil. Let me just tell you, embarrassment and shame and how small mine are compared to his. His is literally, I think if you stood next to it, it'd be like this tall. It's got to be somewhere around there. The thing is massive. And he was telling me he had bought the parts for it. And if you make a mistake, it's like $300 a part. And I forget which part he was blowing up on it, but he's done it more than once. And totally cool guy, totally cool story, man. Awesome Tesla coil. And that thing is noisy, man. It makes some sound. These little ones, not so much. That one, wow. Deeply impressed, man. So impressed. So keep up the hard work, man. That's awesome. Pole dancing. Yeah, not me, man. Hey, it was bad enough I was singing yesterday for the Christmas thing. Yeah, that Rodin coil, man. It's so let me see how far we are. Okay, I can probably answer it real quick. Why would I use the Rodin coil? It smooths out my frequency. So what it does is if you have this thing in resonance with your Rodin coil, it stops the frequency to go back to your Tesla coil. So that means that you're no longer putting any more load on it when you connect something else to the Rodin coil and beyond. So if anything, it would be 10 kilohertz, which is nothing compared to if I wanted to connect, say, this pancake coil right here, and I wanted to take my Rodin coil. So once I put my Rodin coil in, then I wanted to connect my pancake coil. Well, if it wasn't for the Rodin coil, this thing would set this thing too far out of resonance to work. But now I can connect this to this, this to this. Perfect. It's like a one-to-one transformer that keeps the frequency the same from here to here. Then from here to here, it doesn't change much. It's the beauty of running that Rodin coil. It's the energy going one way and the other. And I always like to say the Rodin coil is a perfect example of energy flow. It tells you how things flow in a field like this. So what do I mean by that? So if you follow the windings here, they make that perfect structure for you. In, down, in, down, in, down, in. This is the perfect example of energy flow. So when you go to create your over unity device, if you have this flow, you have it right. If you do not get this flow in your over unity device and you try to go out and create an ether out of it, you're not going to get the big multiplication you're looking for. It doesn't work. That's the energy flow pattern. That's why the Rodin coil works the way it does, because it's flowing in a pattern that matches the pattern you would need in a 0-point energy field. This would be considered your toroidal. That's the pattern you have to have. The other ones come because of this pattern. Because it's moving this way circular, because it's moving over it like a wave, all the way around it like you're sewing, you now get your funnel vortex coming out of it on both sides. Now you start to get the understanding. You go, oh, if I create this here, my funnels will grow by themselves. Well, isn't that interesting? Inside of a field on the inside, which you're creating scalar waves. You see, it's important to build things, guys. You got to learn them. You got to do a bunch of hundreds of tests to get there. Now you have the information for free. Let's see. Merry Christmas, not white in the north. Well, it's right now 63 degrees outside and it's warm. That's nice. California weather. Merry Christmas from Ohio. Do you get snow out in Ohio? Don't know much about it, but been wondering if you're grounded. I hope I answered that question already. Over Unity jewel thief in the Rodin coil. Ben said yes. So Ben is doing awesome with that, by the way. That wasn't a dream, it was a prophecy. Right on, Ben. Good job. Yeah, Ben and Michelle has been working on that quite a bit. And hopefully I said his name right. Usually I say Michael, but Ben said it was said a little differently. So I apologize if I got that wrong. Yeah, you're picking third, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you can learn a lot, man, if you do the experiments. I'll tell you that right now. He didn't fry it yet. Well, I could put this thing in smokes, man, if I wanted to. Turn that power way up. Nothing fried yet. Yeah. Well, it's kind of the motto in the name, guys. So I generally do fry a couple things when I do things out of the norm. Today, it's kind of the norm stuff that I would normally do. Thank you for the experiment. You're welcome. I've been wanting to do this for a while, guys. I just had to, I made a decision on, it's kind of hard for me. You gotta understand, second generation cabinet maker. I had my dad's table saw, and the last thing I had since I was 10 years old. Last time I saw him. So he passed away. So it was kind of like a hard decision. You know what I mean? Do I continue with my science or do I keep that? And I kind of just decided, you know what? You got to break free of all the bonds around you in order to get your mind free of everything. And I decided to sell it and let somebody else take the adventure on. I can no longer use it. My hands are messed up. They don't work right. So, and everything else is starting to clear up as far as things I had wrong, but I'm not interested in taking, 60, 70 pound sheets of wood and throwing them through a saw all day. My back can't handle that. I got, 4 screws, 2 plates, and a couple ball bearings in there. So they don't work the same. But yeah, it was a really hard personal decision to do that. But now that I did, I have my area to build stuff in where I can share it with you guys. And hopefully we can get to an understanding so we don't get the wrong things. One of the things I keep hearing is the Casimir effect. And you really have to watch what you're doing when you hear that kind of stuff. You go, could the wire down the center be creating a Casimir effect? The answer is yes. And that should drive you insane when you start thinking about how Alexei did his gravity flyer, if you knew anything about that. But it also, if you do it wrong, the Casimir effect, 2 energy plates that are not have an insulator to them. So if I took 2 plates of aluminum, put them together, and I didn't have any spray, any clear spray, any paint, anything on this, you can use skateboard tape, I don't care. If it has it, you don't get spark over, and you'll create the pressure. Again, same thing we're looking for. The Casimir effect is basically the same thing we're doing here. but the geometry is a little bit different. So based on the geometry, you get certain effects. This geometry creates cold energy because of the distances, does not create the Casimir effect. But is it close to the same? Yes, it is. Why do you think Alexa used it that way? Now, the bad thing is, if you don't know what you're doing and you put two plates of aluminum together and you use high voltage and you use 30,000 volts, you're not getting pressure between plates. You're getting spark over and you're creating lasers. You do not want an uncontrollable laser in your garage. Trust me, it's not going to work out for you. And without the proper eye protection or safety gear, you could be in some real trouble. You have to know what you're doing in order to build it. Can you build the Casimir effect and still create the plates? Yes, but you have to insulate the side of them. Now this, I have PVC insulating this, okay? I can't get the spark over, therefore I can't get the laser. But is it still pushing the cold energy in there? Yeah. What is that telling you about the gravity flyer? When it's connected to your center plate, you're pulling the Casimir effect twice. Once here, once on the center plate of your gravity flyer between those two plates. You got it both ways. You got cold energy. Now, you're taking a transverse wave, you're changing it to a longitudinal wave by doing this. That's how it works. That's one of the key secrets to the gravity flyer that nobody knows, because they put high voltage in it and say it's junk and then they walk away. They never stop to learn what the guy understood. It's frustrating. What's up, Joe? Oh, nice. You're making electrics? Those are cool. Man, Jarvis is into that. He's doing a lot of work with that. He's got a patent pending on it. Well, electrics in cavitation. The round sphere is the cavitation. The electrics on the inside, ball lightning. There's your effect. You can get it easier, Jarvis says, with the electrics versus the energy that they put into there. That snows. Nice. Last time I seen snow, it was at least 10 years ago. And that was only up in the desert part of California. Joe's got snow all over the place in New York. They're so cute together, Tesla coil and Rodin coil. Yeah? Yes, they are. Especially when I light up my Rodin coil outside, it's glow in the dark. So it'll turn purple or like a blue looking color. So if you leave it out there to charge, obviously it's not sunny enough probably, or it might be, I don't know, I block out the lights. But you get it sunny enough, it'll charge it up and then it looks glowing color, which makes testing awesome, by the way, but it doesn't last for very long. Two outer coils powered independently. You could. What are you looking for with it though? I mean, can you get the fields to cross over? I guess that's what you'd be looking for. Can you get the field in the center to pick it up at double? That would be the only way I would think that you might do it that way. There's a much easier way to make more power out of it. Could it be a cool effect? Well, that could be a cool effect. So I'll tell you what, I'll set up, next time I do this, I'll grab some more capacitors for another ZVS and I'll set another one up and we'll try it. So I'm trying to build some coils right now, by the way, guys. So I have this one here, right? And then I have my gold coil, which is about half the distance, about, well, maybe a little more. It's about 11 inches long. And I broke the inside. If you saw my video on the inside, I got a whole bunch of fractals on the inside where you could see a high voltage line just zipped right through it, and it ruined it. It looks great on the outside, but on the inside, it's trashed. It's no good anymore. But I'll leave it on the shelf to look nice, but I need to create 4 more. So it's kind of like Transformers movie. I'm going to create pillars, and then I'm going to have the guide pillar right here. And I'm going to use it to resonate all the rest of them. Now, that test comes with some consequences if you don't know what you're doing, so leave it up to me to figure it out. But yeah, it's going to be cool. We'll start with 2, and then we'll see that effect. I'll have 2, and I'll put circuits on them and do the one you wanted, and then we'll start one and send it to the other one. You know what I mean? Kind of do that in a day. I could probably knock out both of those things as soon as I have them built. So I'm going to start them right after Christmas and wind them out. So I'll probably take a couple days to dry, do other things. Probably be like 4 days, and they'll be up and running. By then, I can get another ZVS board and some more capacitors and another power source. We'll just run it. Okay. Flip the poles. Well, interesting you say that. I have. And yes, I can create a north and a south pole. Wow, 2 centimeters of snow. You guys got better snow than I did. I said the wrong name? That figures I can't hear very well. Well, you knew what I was talking about. That's basically the gist of it. Huh. Got scared. Yeah, thought I heard it the right way. Formula to build plate capacitors. That'd be interesting. Sean's doing work with that. Let's see. We're going to use your formula on the Tesla coils that I build, by the way. So I'm going to tell you if you're right or wrong or how close you are, but I have a feeling you're going to be pretty close. It's an exponential increase in power. That's got to be the 2 Tesla coils running by themselves and then coming in. Okay, that's what you're looking for. All right. Uh-oh, jingle bells. And yeah, got some of that going on. That's not good. Yeah. Between 2 fields. Well, that's how it works. I can tell you that there's properties in that you should probably learn more than just knowing it's 2 plates. Right on. Well, we'll find out, huh? That's kind of why we do the test, right? Oh, yeah. So, all right, give me a second. Let me go through the rest of the comments and I'll answer this for you. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Give me 1 second. There's a couple gravity flyer questions I need to answer, guys. Right on. Thank you, guys. Looking good so far. Right on. Okay, so let's answer the gravity flyer questions, okay? I'll move some of this real quick so I can talk about it. What do I know that others don't know about the gravity flyer? Well, probably everything. I don't think there's too many tests out there that show you a bunch of stuff. I try to show it to you guys, but sometimes we get a little lost in how things work. So if you put your Tesla coil attached to the top rotating plate and the bottom rotating plate. So say I took the rod here and I connected here. Then I took the wire that's connected to the rod on the bottom and I ran that to my top and bottom plate. What happens? Number one, I'll develop a beat frequency in my craft. So my light, if you've ever seen these, they'll have little black spots that picks up in your light. And it'll show you the beat frequency in the light when it runs on how fast it'll go. You know, it goes like this real fast and it brightens up less and then more, then back and forth, you know, like this. And it creates a beat frequency. Now, what is the secondary effect? So that's one. You created a beat frequency. Now it goes through your whole craft. Your whole craft is self-correcting because of the way you built it. Again, people underestimate this fact, and I'll say this before I go on to the other one. Junky, thin wires create beat effects in your work. If you use thick wires, it cancels them out. You have to decide if the inventor wanted it there or if he wanted it canceled out. Generally, if they thin wires and it's working, stick with the same thing. He's teaching you something that you should know. Beat frequency will get throughout everything. And you go, oh, okay. So as I speed up my top plate, what happens? Because that's the one that's moving the fastest. Your frequency that goes on in there gets more rapid. Okay? Way more rapid. What is the secondary effect? It's not keeping your field here like a traditional Tesla coil. It's now throwing that field out. The amount of rotation or the speed of the rotation creates distance. That's what it's doing. It's creating a bubble now. One builds, the other one builds on top of each other. They cross each other. Bubbles. Okay? Fields. This is why I always talk about fields and bubbles. Create a field. If I connect the center plate, which goes to the rods and everything of it, to that gravity flyer, and I connect static electricity. So if I took two DC flybacks and put them in series connected to each other, it rips out just about every amp in there and puts a very high voltage, very high frequency. That field will now be pushed by the Tesla coil field. The Tesla coil field will move that. If you do it and those discs are flying, anything over 1400 RPMs, the effect that will happen is your computer will shut off if you do not blow up parts of the board. You have now created an electromagnetic wave that threw itself across the room. Why? The Tesla coil field, as it builds out, can stay in one area. The other field pushes. So you say, okay, well, what if you run it in reverse? And you put the top and bottom plate with the static electricity and you put the Tesla coil field to the center. Again, it goes to the rods around it. It then holds it in. Now you have a static electricity inside of a bubble. How do you get to the scalar portion and where you want to be with that electricity to take it out of static into scalar, into the negative energy? You take your plates and you put them as close to the center plate as you can. And as long as it doesn't spark over, and when you turn off the lights, you're not getting a high voltage hiss, you are now in the dielectric plate area. What's going on? Just like high voltage lines, when you have three, there comes a point of saturation in the center one. Here's the two outside ones pushed up against it. The center will now saturate. It now combines this field with this field in the center all together as one. Remember I told you the Tesla coil field will push the other field out. So what happens? As soon as you turn on your Tesla coil now, in that center plate, it now pushes those fields back to the other plates. Back to the top plate, back to the bottom plate. Now it's moving the field inside of there. When you create sparks, you ruin the entire experiment. Absolutely ruin it. If you get a high voltage hiss, you've ruined it. If when you turn off the lights and you get that plasma glow, you ruined it. Any plasma created in this form is absolute garbage. Do not want it. It is a hindrance to what you're trying to do. You're trying to create stable fields. That's kind of the idea of the whole thing. So if you can create a stable field, then you can create capacitance of energy inside that field. What does that mean? It means your pump is on. It is pumping energy into, okay? But you say, well, what about the straw effect? Okay, the straw is sucking in the energy. Why? Your gravity flyer is on the ground. Just what I said with the light, okay? When you create the ground, you create the pull. Now you're sucking it through the straw and pulling it in. Is it all going back to the ground? No. It will continuously fill the field bubble up. Now just think about that for a minute. You go, well, if everybody says anti-gravity is negative energy, everybody says you have to have a field bubble. Everybody says that you have to push out everything else inside that bubble and create a negative energy or a scalar field inside that bubble that stays in there. Alexei showed you how to do it. There's no question about that. If you didn't get that answer, you didn't do the test right. Alexei showed you how to do it. You created the correct fields. Now, is there a lot of factors to look for when you're building it? Yes, there is. But if you can follow it and get it built, you'll have your fields. He does a red light test and he shows you exactly where the field is. And it has to do with less about where the heat is and more about what type of light picks up the fields. I know a lot of you out there have heard the blue glass rumor. Can you take blue glass and look at something, and will it show you something different than other colors? Kind of like that, what was that, National Treasure, where he has those glasses and the little light frames are different colors, and he pulls them in and out. Well, think about that when you have something like this. You're changing the spectrum in which you can look at something which our eyes can't pick up naturally. But with those spectrums, you can start to see what he did. He went to the furthest extent to show you this. And I think it's kind of sad that a lot of people didn't do the test. So they would be raving about this thing is the greatest field generator for learning purposes that there is. Okay? It's putting in everything that you want. You can go down the list in physics and start checking things off. That's why people keep it around. That's why they keep wanting to know if it's going to fly or whatever, because he's putting a ton of physics effects in this. And it really comes down to, did you build it right? Did you understand it right? And did you build the fields right? Because he's building 3 different effects on one voltage source. That's kind of hard to do. And no matter what experiment you do, it's hard. It's so hard because you can easily try to overpower this thing with everything. And negative energy, it works on less power. The least amount of power you put it through, the better it is. And I know that sounds wrong, but it's absolutely right. So just understand that, guys. It's a different world when dealing with the tech that he did. It teaches you a ton about the gravity flyer, but it'll teach you everything you want to know when it comes to UFO effects, what it's doing, why do you need to build a field this way, what's the effects of the field, how to make it stronger, how to pull more energy into it without overpowering a system. That man knew a lot more than what we think he did. I had some people tell me, well, he put a metal plate in the ground. That's how it lifted. I'm sorry. I put 100 metal plates into this thing. It ain't lifting off the ground. That eddy current is not that strong. The voltage he has into it, look at it. It looks like there's nothing going into it. And you go, well, really, if he doesn't have that much energy, how's it working? Because we're continuing to think of hot voltage and putting more and more and more into it. Negative voltage or cold voltage doesn't work that way. You want to pull it through the device. Therefore, it's less energy to create it. I think that one's going to be the hardest one for people to get over. I don't think they're going to really understand it until they play with it and they go, oh my God, it's doing exactly what he just told me it did. Hopefully you understand that. Gravity fire, awesome, awesome thing. How do you want to create your phases? Oh, isn't that an interesting? Okay. Resonating something in phases. It goes to the string in resonance. Okay, and here's what I mean. Hit your string in resonance, right? You're going to get this thing that looks like this. Okay, it's just one. But then you put it in a resonance, say you divide it by 2, right? What's going to happen? It's going to have 2 on it now, right? So you have both fields going, this frequency and the first frequency. So the one that overlaps the whole thing, then the one that has 2. As this one goes once, this top one's not hit, but when it gets to the other side, it hits and they both amplify. You can divide that further into 3 separate frequencies and get an amplification there. That's how you figure that out. You have to know where the point where it ends on both sides. Start thinking about it that way. It's so much easier than to think of the high point because you're not going to reach the high point. So look at where it drops on each one. Like where's the rainbow end on both sides? And then calculate it. It's so much easier to learn it that way. May not be the correct way that it is, but it is an easier way to learn it. But that's how you do it. So you go, well, how do you figure that out on an oscilloscope? It's radio frequency. So if I put something at resonance and I put it in radio frequency, right? That means that as I scroll through with my frequency generator, I get a spot where I can hit and it'll resonate. Then I go a bit further, I'll hit it again, it'll resonate. Go further, hit it again, it'll resonate. One of them is going to be the optimum resonance you want to put it in. However, the other 2 will also resonate. So if you have different coils on it, resonate 1, resonate 2, resonate 3, you'll be able to amplify this thing like crazy. Hopefully that answered it. I doubt it did the justice that it needed, but it's exactly how you do it. So, oh, and I didn't answer this before, the piezoelectric disc. So I showed this on my channel. Cold energy works with quartz. I told you guys this, right? How do I know? Well, when I break the negative on the piezoelectric disc, it amplifies the circuit. But then When I don't break it, when I mean break it, I mean short it. When I don't short it, what happens? Well, it now will push the signal out. So you go, okay, so when you turn it on, it's pushing a signal down. That's okay. Sound wave, got it. Not a problem. When you turn it off and it's amplifying, what is it doing? Pulling it back out. Taking it, pulling it. They always talk about explosion and implosion. Explosion, implosion, explosion, implosion. Think of your piezo the same way. It's only when you turn it off does it amplify. And it'll double if you have it in the right frequency. Again, a lot of this is frequency. You have to learn to line up frequency in the right order. How they relate, how they work one to the next. It's really important when dealing with this. Tesla was a master at frequency, but he also knew it interacted with quartz. When I show you things going in sand, I'm literally playing with the quartz in the sand. That's it. If I put it in pure mud, it'll have some effect depending on how much quartz you have in there, but not so much. I did test outside with distance, and the mud only goes so far. If I have sand in it, way, way further. And being that the water has memory, it takes a while. So you could put it out there for 5 minutes and you go, oh man, it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I got it hooked up and I turned on the power, it doesn't work, right? I got 5 feet. 10 hours later, you got 10 feet. You got to take the time to get all of the water, not just a little portion of it. That's what happens when you get a Tesla coil that'll last you all day versus one that blows up on you every 5 minutes. That's why I tell you which one to use and how to build it, trying to give you the advantage in order to understand this. You see, you have to condition the water. And once you condition the water, then the quartz works well with it to conduct it properly. If you do not condition that water, it does not work with it properly. Then you get short distances instead of long distances, which you should have. So kind of an understanding. Some of this stuff is not meant to be shut off right away. A lot of the tests people do is, hey, I got 5 minutes, it's a good test. I got 20 minutes, a good test. That's not the way this energy works. Point of saturation. It's going to take longer in cold energy. That's about as simple as I can make it. So let's go one step further and then I'll look at the chat again. Hutchinson. Cold energy. There's no denying it. He's using crystal circuits or crystal batteries, however you want to say it, crystal capacitors. In order to do that, he had to create a substance that would be like water in order to interact with it, in order to pull the charge from it. No different than a peg cell. Has to stay somewhat moist, right? It could be packed up in a little cake, but it still has to be somewhat moist. So do we know what he did? Yeah. What you may not realize and probably skipped over was the fact that he left it for days. Sometimes the effect would happen within 5 hours. Sometimes the effect would happen in 2 days. So it has more to do with time than you think for to get to the point of saturation in the material he's looking at. Once the material reaches the point of saturation, it changes the material. Now, I'm not saying that it, how do I say this? It doesn't change the physical structure of it. It has saturated it with energy. Where before it were on the outside, it wouldn't go through it. It wouldn't stay with a charge because then it'll reach its point of saturation. So you would only know that if you play with static electricity and you hit the point of saturation in that. there's a lot of experiments that don't work in static electricity if you don't hit the point of saturation. An electret is the point of saturation. You saturated it, you got it to one side of the field, and then you froze it in that side of the field by letting something dry or whatever. That's what an electret is. I keep saying that word wrong. Electret. So that's how they work. Field has to be on the whole time in order to create it. So you think about that in different materials. Well, have you sat there and taken a milk carton and seen the point of saturation? Have you taken a bowling ball and see when it saturates with cold energy? For most of you, this whole negative energy or cold energy thing is something new. So you wouldn't even know to look for it. You wouldn't understand that, hey, this is the device that gives you what you want, not the hot voltage. I see a lot of people working on hot voltage and think it's going to work, and I just, that's fun. I love the light show, but it's not going to work. Also, remember the environment you're in. Hutchinson did it in an apartment. And if his grounding was the wall grounding, the wires run throughout the walls in the area, creating a point of a field in the room. Therefore, if you're outside, you have to take into account everything else unless you create a bubble. If you're in the room saturates. Let me tell you about being in a saturated room. You better have your mind right. If you do not have your mind right, again, this stuff interacts with crystal. It interacts with crystal. You have crystal in your body. It will not be good for you to be in that room if you saturate it and you are not in the right frame of mind. Do not do tests when you're angry, when you're working with this stuff. Do not do it when you got other stuff going on. Focus, be in the moment, keep your mind calm and on task, positive thoughts. I know that sounds like, hey, that's what a lot of people with the crystals say. Because they're right, but now you're charging the crystals. So you better have it right. Thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate it, man. You're awesome. Hopefully I'm showing you guys something out here. So thank you very much. Hertz to terahertz. If you're working in hot electricity, yes. If you're not, then you're going to be able to run it at a much lower frequency. Think of it as an inverse. You're going cold, so the frequency is going to change inside there. Remember, you're switching places between your dielectric field from being on the outside to the inside. Therefore, your frequency is going to change. And on the outside, it may be those levels are really high. On the inside, it's going to be really low. So there's a difference there. Frequency is an advanced geometry. Gerald's coil would say absolutely yes. You are 100% right, which makes what he did so mind-blowing. Precisely put. Okay. Right, and find out. I haven't fried anything yet. I'm doing good. So, talk about a little understanding of what I'm doing here. Oh man, what do they call it in Tesla Tech? Oh, I probably shouldn't tell you. But there's a guy that worked for the DOD, and he built the same energy that I'm building. And which means at a certain point, I have to stop whatever I do. And I can't go any further, even if I don't know where the line is. I pretty much think I know where the line is. But he builds the slap something. I don't remember what it was. But he presented at Tesla Tech at 2016, 2017. He also did work with water cells. But he also used this to impart energy onto water. If you watch it, you'll understand a lot more about what I'm doing and why it's so special. With that said, I'm going to leave it right there. Hopefully you guys can, pick up on what I said and understand it and check it out. But there's a point where I'll have to stop what I'm doing, even if I know where it goes, and not show it, because they will show up at your door for that. So I think I'm on the line. So let's go ahead and do some experiments, guys. Enough me babbling, telling people, everything. Let's hook this up and let's look at this. Now, look, for people who want to know how this is wound, this right here is my pancake coil, and Master Evo built this. He didn't build mine, but he showed me how to build it, or he showed everybody how to build it. So I built it based on his instructions. Basically, the whole thing's wound from the inside to the outside. The red wire hooks to the silver wire, and that goes on the inside. And then the silver wire goes to the outside, and the red wire's on the outside. Sorry if I messed that up for you in your head. I suggest you watch this video on how to build this. I simply put cardboard underneath it, put a pipe into it, used super glue, and left some hanging on the top, and then ran it and super glued it as I went so that I can get the shape out of it. But with that said, turn it on. Completely lights up. Not a problem whatsoever. Does it scale with it? Yes, it does. There it went, I popped out of resonance. You'll notice it when it does it too, because all of a sudden you'll see something getting less bright. Put it back in. I don't have my Rodin coil attached. It's just to my Tesla coil. You set it there. Again, it's no different than when I run this. So when I tell you it's a different energy, what do I mean? It works with everything. Pancake coil, Rodin coil, this coil, that coil, that coil. Anything I put to it is going to work. Why? Because it's not AC and DC. This is a separate energy altogether. This turns it into a scalar field, but it's a controlled scalar field inside of a coil, or in this coil. That's kind of the point. That's why you would think, okay, gravity flyer, scalar field, now we're getting somewhere, negative energy. Oh, you got to be kidding me, right? Yeah, no, I'm not. It's all right there. It is literally an energy well. So what do I mean by energy well? Once the energy's in here, if I say this is the cup, I put it here, I fill the cup up with energy. Take the cup away. This is still running at the same thing it's running at. Go back and I fill it up again. Okay? Take it away. This is still running at what it is. No matter if I put this on it or not, I am not changing the energy in this coil. That's why it's built out of scalar. You see, it's an energy well because the energy runs regardless of what you're taking from it. That's why we have the understanding that we do. Can you put coils inside this and pull energy out? Yes, you can. Can you put one with iron cores in it? If it's soft iron, it absolutely loves soft iron. And it'll pull a higher field. If I wound this little bottom, I took this thing here, right? And I put a iron core in the center, soft iron, okay? Now I wrap this. I now have something to pull the energy out of this. And it'll pull at a higher level because, again, I'm reaching a point of saturation with the soft iron. Because I reach a point of saturation with the soft iron, now the winding on it pulls more energy out. Can I do it with an open winding? Yes. Is it more powerful with the soft iron? Yes. Gerald does it all the time with this coil. The difference between this coil and Gerald's coil, he is manipulating geometry in order to pull a scalar field on all levels. This pulls 1-to-1. Still works, still is understandable, but it'll need to be built into more in order to create those fields, to get it as strong as he did. Now, that means that he's got a way more advanced version. The hardest thing in that is it cancels fields everywhere if you don't know what you're doing. It is literally, he said he got it from God, and he did. Because as smart as I am, as much as I can build, I have probably failed 20 times at it already. Because it continues to cancel fields out. It doesn't create the correct field that I want. And it has to do with an understanding of winding. And just so we all know this, I'm too proud to ask for the answer. I like to figure things out on my own, and that's just the way it is. If you don't earn it, you probably shouldn't have it. So even if somebody tells you the answer, you still got to build it to earn it. So I like to learn things on my own. Like, I don't look at a lot of Tesla patents because I want to learn it. I want to build it. And then I build it and I share it. Then physicists tell me what the actual thing I built was, and then we all move on from there. As simple as that. I don't have to be the guy that does everything. I just have to be the guy that builds it. That's where I'm happy. So let's turn this on, man. You just had it on. Let's go a little more. This is always fun, right? Yep. See if we get more. Look at that. Way more energy in there. That's foil. That's kitchen foil. My wife caught me, by the way, with the foil and made me return it. Not the part that I took, but the rest of it. I was going to make a big capacitor, right? And I had some duct tape, and I'm going, man, I'll put duct tape around it, and then I'll put another, you know what I mean? And she came out as I'm winding the second one, and she goes, I don't think so, buddy. Bring that back in the house, man. I got so much trouble. I should go to the 99-cent store and just pick some up. But, yeah, that's what happens. Get my old self in trouble. Scalar is the X line. I'm going to tell you right now, I got the correct energy. Let's see. You have knowledge of scalar, old man build thinking on it. How do I want to say this? Scalar works when you have two Tesla coils and you have grounds, and you basically had put a ball on both your Tesla coils, and it transmits like this across the both. Pretty simple to understand, right? That's normal scalar when you see it in the way Tesla coils work. Okay, that's normally what you hear. But scalar is a little different when you start changing how your Tesla coil works. I put it in a bipolar Tesla coil on its side. It's going to change the scalar and what it's doing. If I have it in the stand-up Tesla coil, it's going to change what it's doing. If I change this primary to the center, it's also going to change what I'm doing. Now, how you have things in the form of here to here changes what it's doing. So what do I think that scalar is? It's the state before static electricity, before plasma, before all those things go on. It is the pure form of energy. Everything that puts a field around it imparts part of their field onto it. Then you start to get light. That's what I think it is. It's a pure energy field, and when you put another field next to it, you get light. Why? Because that field has a lot of amps and you don't. In your scalar field, you have very little amps, if any, and it's just enough to run it as a field, but now it's like pure energy. And that's what I think a scalar field is. And there's a lot of people out there, or I should say one in particular, you should look up. And he'll tell you about it. And it's also a frequency that can mess with the weather. If you know how to do it, I won't tell you how to do it, but if you know how to do it, it does. It also messes with earthquakes and stuff like that if you know what you're doing. Again, not an area I could tell you about, but I know it does it. But it's a pure energy form. It's what you have in your 0 point energy. That's all there is to it. It is a scalar field in 0 point energy. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have discovered it, more than Tom Bearden, I could tell you that. Let's see, give me a second. Bob Boyce, B-O-B, last name Boyce, B-O-Y-C-E, Tesla Tech. Write it down, look it up. When you see what he's doing, you're going to almost have a heart attack based on what I'm doing. No, not Tom Bearden. Bob Boyce, right there. Now, so now that you have an understanding of what I'm doing and you look it up, it's not hard. 2016, 2017 Tesla Tech, look it up. You're going to have a much bigger appreciation of what I've shown you and how to do it based on what he's doing. Trust me when I tell you, this is the information you want. Want to build it? I showed you how. Tons of videos on my channel. You want to know why to build it? Look at what he did. One of the things I like to do is push things where other people haven't gone. So I stay away from some of the stuff he did. That and the Department of Defense would be knocking on my door if I push it much further. So, that said, we can do some more tests and hang out some more. So, but that's the person you want to look at. So we'll do this. So it's real simple, guys. We just got little clips here. I don't know if you can see that well. It's just a piece of copper that I shaped. Will sit on the side of the bowl. Get in here and not. Oh man, I should have brought something to stir this with. There we go. Just get that sand pliable. I always wanted to put enough energy in this to make those sculptures you see when lightning strikes. I think those things are so awesome. But unfortunately, this is not the way to do that. Even with my hot Tesla coil, I don't know that I could get that. I'd love to, though. So we're just going to hook it to the light here. 2 wires, not connected. Put it here. So they sit down in there. Come on, buddy, quit arguing with me. Wires love to argue. Come on. There we go. All right. So I'm going to turn this on, and I don't expect much to happen. As we can see, the light's not lighting up. We are on. You see my Tesla coil lights it up. There you go. I don't like just stand by itself. It needs the water. That's it. Pretty simple. It's an easy test to do. It really tells you a lot about stuff. Now, if you have moisture in there, one of the cool effects is it'll like to pull through the moisture a little bit. You know what I mean? Kind of create a little sparking in there. Even though it's on the cold side, it's still looking for that heat from the grounding. And Sean did a test on his, when he presented on his Tesla coil. I'll turn this off real quick. One of the cool things is he took the ground line and he ran everything in AC, not DC. I usually run everything in DC. So he ran it in AC, same ZVS driver type of thing. What he did was he had his number 2 coil right here, and he just put a little wire coming out of it. And then he took the ground line and put it up to there. Coolest thing in the world happened. So you have your ground line. The energy didn't go from the Tesla coil to here like you would think, right? Conventional thinking, hey, it's going to spark over to the ground. It went from the ground to the number 2 coil. Sparked this way. What is that telling you about the Tesla coil? Well, the Tesla coil is a pump. Pumps energy. So it does. It oscillates. It pumps. Keeps pumping, right? As it pumps, as it goes down, it sucks the energy in. Pumps. Sucks it in. Pumps. If you start thinking about the Tesla coil as a pump, it's so much easier to understand why things are working that way. The energy oscillates. It's a pump. It pulls things into it. It's pulling the negative through the circuit. It's giving the suction action for the straw. It's like, say I wanted to empty a pool. Do I need to go get this big, pump, plug it into the wall, everything else? No, not at all. I am going to literally take a 6-foot hose. I'm going to put one end in the pool. I'm going to suck water through to the other end and let it out. I am basically siphoning the water out of that pool. It will continuously run until the pool is empty. If I decide to put the water back into the pool, it'll simply circulate and drop out back into the pool. Now, if I wanted free energy, what would I do? I'd just take a little paddle wheel, put a motor on it, use it as a generator, and simply put the water in there, suck it out, and let it go over top the paddle wheel and continuously run. It's free, it's energy, and it'll light up LEDs in your front yard in order to create free energy in your front yard as long as the suction stays in the water. That's the same principle here. It's doing the same thing. We're sucking the energy out like a straw. Circle turned back on. Water activated it. Bob Lazar, yeah, that could be a good source if you want to look into anti-gravity. Let's see. Gravitics, yes. I went into that a little bit. I could tell you it's the golden goose, guys. We got a new member, guys. Harry, thank you. Thank you, Harry. That's awesome. Right on, man. Throw it up in the chat, all the different emojis you get, man. They're right down at the bottom there. You can see them. Totally awesome, brother. Thank you. Let's see. I don't know. You guys must be having a conversation about something else over here. Hold on. Oh, there was an interesting interview that just happened. Please forgive me, guys. I don't know everybody's channel and everybody. I just subscribed to them yesterday. But they were interviewing Ken, and he was talking about a lot of this stuff. So if you have it, throw it in the chat and tell me who it was. But that guy, by the way, I've seen him on a couple different things. Pretty cool guy. A lot of understanding going on there. So, yeah, I know Ashton covered it as well, but I was talking about the original source of it. The interview is great. There's a lot of things in there that if you know how to build it, it makes it pretty easy to understand. Some of it, if you don't know how to build it, it'll be confusing and you may mistake the wrong process in physics to get there. When they start talking about the nuclear resonance in something, they're right and the wrong. And how do I want to say that? Okay. I ran this Rodin coil and I put the energy into it. And at that time I had a wire, didn't have my rod down the center. It would stay on until I don't want to say this, until it warmed back up to the room temperature. So you would say that, well, that sounds like a nuclear half-life in the fact that the energy stays into it and has a half-life. Okay, I can see the similarity, but it wasn't that. You see, it's not a nuclear half-life, it's temperature differential. So what happens? Cold energy, remember the Rodin coil is a vortex. It is creating a vortex to the inside and making the energy cold. So what does that do to the wires? Well, again, remember we talked about the dielectric. Instead of being on the outside where you have your magnetic field and your dielectric, it forces your dielectric to the inside and your magnetic field to the outside. So when it did that on the coil, you can take the power away from it and it stays running until the temperature of the coil gets back to the temperature of the room. If you can control that, you can control plasmoids. It is the single best understanding of how to create things through cold energy in order to get to the plasmoids you're looking for. You see, we're building them out of hot energy instead of cold energy. Cold energy is the way to go, but you've got to have a temperature differential to get you there. So when I did the test, a lot of people said, oh, cool, it lights up for a little bit longer. Changing the temperature in the coil out of the temperature in the room. Depending on how low I can get the temperature in the coil, I can start to create superconductivity. Now, you say, well, that doesn't sound right. You didn't put no ice on it. You ain't got it cold. There's no dry ice in the building. I don't need it. I control the temperature in the coil. Therefore, I can create superconductivity in my coil. You see, if you learn how to master it, your coil will have superconductivity into it, and the amounts of energy will become massive. Gerald has done this. We know that. He said it on the live. He knows how. Now, his coil is different than my coil, so everyone's going to run a little bit different, but the concept's exactly the same, and we're not changing that. We're just changing the fact of what we're doing here, okay? You want to create this colder than the room itself. Once it gets back to room temperature, turns off. That's the understanding. You need to be able to move heat and cold through your system. Now, that comes in the geometry of your system. How you want to pull that, which configuration you want to put it in. Are you looking for anti-gravitics? Are you looking for free energy? Depending on how you do those things is how you set up your coil. Now, I'll tell you, go to Gerald's channel. Absolute mastermind of this stuff. He's done a ton of tests. It should start you out on the right path. Build your own coil. Do things based on, I don't know, maybe look it up. And I have it on my channel, a bunch of pictures of different windings. I would suggest you start there. And it's a thing I did for the live, and then I put a bunch of pictures onto it. Check it out, because if you look on there and understand the underlying meaning of what I'm telling you with that, man, there's going to be a giant light bulb that goes off on your head. And you're going to go, oh my God, this guy really did know what the heck he was doing and what he was creating. And yeah, I do. So temperature in your coil, very important. If you know how to play with it and go between them, you can create cool things. Creating scalar inside here, permanent energy field. Just if your coil is in perfect resonance, watch out for runaways. There is a chance of that, though most coils are not perfect, so you won't have to worry about that. The Rodin coil works a bit differently. It is the understanding of energy flow instead of the geometry to build the energy. It is the understanding of the flow. So if I understood the flow of this, I know how to use the energy from this. Now I need to build a geometry in order to build the rest of the workings. You want transmutation in your 0-point energy, you better understand geometry. And you better understand how to build it. With that said, I'm going to let Gerald tell you how to build his coil, but it's the absolute answer. He's had it for a long time, done a lot of tests, knows a lot of things about it. You know, I'm just playing with my Tesla coils here, showing you how things work, playing with my Rodin coil, playing with my, my bifilar pancake coil, love it. Producing a little energy, having a little fun. You want the 0-point field, Gerald has it. Hey, there's Gerald right there. Joe's probably got something going on today. Gerald would absolutely win a Nobel Prize if he, once he gets it out there. Let's look, what else we got going on. Are these the plasmoids you're looking for, like the droids? Let me say some mushrooms, that's right. Huh. Who's Gerald? Right here. That's Gerald. You'll see him on the shows every Monday and Wednesday. We do a live show, and we all hang out and have some fun. Kind of like, after all the work is done, we show things. So, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm working on it, Gerald. I put your comment up, but then, you know what I mean? Oh. Put a small coil. Maybe. Gerald's Mr. Naughty. Do not have Gerald build you a circuit, or excuse me, have him build you the circuit, but don't have him draw it for you. A lot of curves in the circuit. Let me just put it that way. Voluptuous. Anyway, so we said water is the key, right? So let's do it again, guys. We're not even going to be nice about it here, man. We're just going to start shoving some things together. Is it one thing, it's just the next? Well, let's find out. Should probably turn the power on. Okay, a bunch of wires hanging out. All right. As long as it's not something else, I'm good to go. Just make sure that goes in there. We'll just drop it in. Lights up right next to it. Lights up brighter. Capacitance and energy. Just light it up. Light them if you got them. Get energy out of it. It's okay. Neat trick, old man. All right. You got some funky stuff in there and we know it. There's some water. I'm going to excite the glass itself. I told you it's pure energy. Say, well, yeah. There you go. That's pretty bright, man. Say, hey, why mess with the wire when you could just go to the source, huh? Light bulb's not supposed to work in the water. Come on. Got tons of water in there. What's going on here? Light bulb's underwater. Look at that. It's still on. This wire right here is transmitting energy to it. That's so cool. Just awesome, man. Sometimes. Respect to all of you. Thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate that. What do we need here? Yes, I do need another camera attached to the setup. You're absolutely right. I should probably get something for my room after Christmas and then, work it out where I can have two different cameras so we can do this a little better. Oh, yeah. Sometimes that happens, man. Look, I got burned a couple weeks ago doing testing. You got to remember sometimes they're in cold, but they switch back to hot. Yeah, I'll tell you that understanding in a minute. How much would you need for 100 gravity flyer? Gravity flyers, man, you can build them cheap if that's what you're asking. I don't sell things that I build. But it would probably, if you just want to build the frame and everything, you're under $200. If you want to put all the circuits to it, you're probably another $200 to $300. So expect to pay about $500 and then you'd have it and you could play. That's about where it is. interesting test. Would you put a floor tube inside the vacuum container? Yeah, I would. By the way, okay, so let me just, I did a test outside. It's kind of crazy when I say this, but it absolutely is true. Had a wire connected to the top of my Tesla coil. I was simply running it outside, and I wanted to see if I put water on my fake grass, will I be able to light it up? Well, the answer was yes. And every time I touched this to the ground, it lit up brighter. Again, I'm pulling the ground through the circuit. I'm lighting this up wirelessly. The ground affected it and lit it up brighter. That should be pretty much common knowledge at this point. So what the cool thing was, is I was touching the wire as it came down like this. And it pulled a purple glow out of the wire. Now, usually I only get a purple glow when I have two wires far away from each other in hot energy on my AC flyback and I'm trying to create plasma, right? Well, plasma is more of a purple. This is more of a blue. So I can't tell you the exact effect that's going on there. I can tell you that it pulls out of there. And I have a suspicion that it has to do with Tesla's X-ray and how he was pulling the energy to that bulb. And it has to do with the cold side of the circuit. And if you create the hairpin circuit, you could probably get that out of it and start doing that test. Now, Sean bought the special light bulb. Sean Calderon comes on Wednesday when he does the Wednesday shows, and he presents and he does all these tests of cool thing. He bought the bulb. I think he's got a CRT TV, and he's going to run the test and see if it actually creates the X-ray using the one-wire energy the same way, and then going conventional and see which way it does. I have a feeling he's using the one-wire energy and he's creating that X-ray. That's Tesla did. And it's based on that one wire. When you touched it, man, it came off blue and it looked just gorgeous. And I've seen somebody else doing it on a short, and I thought it was cool. And it only happened, by the way, the outside temperature was about 30 degrees. Now, it was cold for California. You guys are in the snow, obviously, would probably show up better. But it was just interesting to me. Now, it's been warmer at night lately, and I haven't been able to pull the same effect. But I have been able to get that energy to do it that one time, and it's an odd thing. It's a cool thing. Love to repeat it so I can explain it better. All I can tell you is what I saw, and that's what happened. So that was one of the tests I did, and you'll see me standing out there just pushing the light into the ground on my channel. Another test I did out there, which was a beautiful test, by the way. I took a big bucket of sand and water, and I put it out there, and I put the cold energy into it, and I lit up, I think it was like 8 light bulbs, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a star pattern. And one of the cool things is you turned on the energy would flow from where it was connected down this way. Now, why wouldn't it light it up all at once? The temperature outside was too cold for it to light it up that way. And I did not have the other side grounded. If I had the other side grounded, boom, it would have turned on like bright light. But it didn't. So I wasn't going to ground it. I wanted to get the test so I can take a look at it and see what it was doing. It was a cool effect, awesome understanding of the power of this thing. And it made a beautiful star. And to do it just out of a bucket, we're talking plastic bucket, wasn't glass, and it was filled with sand and water. And it lights light bulbs. That's what it does. So one wire energy, so that's pretty cool. Let's see what else we got in here. But still work. Everything still works, man. I blew up a lot of circuits getting to this point, but yeah. When do I plan to get a thermal camera? I'd like to get one after the holiday. If I can afford it, I will definitely get one. I'll try to see if I can get a cheap one, secondhand. Maybe somebody's got one that wants to sell it. Yeah. 100-foot diameter. Oh, yeah, good luck. Well, I'm not building that thing. It's once you get the first one built, you would build it 3/4 of a size or half size bigger than what you have it, and keep scaling up, because there's going to be extra effects that happen that don't show up in a smaller model. I would imagine you'd build 10 models before you got to 100 feet, because you'd have to understand the energy, how to scale things, and how to do it properly. Not something I'd want to do right out of the box. Yeah, if I showed it, I'd be stopped. I would get everything confiscated right away. That's absolutely right. You like biology better? Well, I got news for you. There's some Tesla coils in your future. Let's see. He's trying to find a basketball court. Yeah. Purple glow. Yeah, it was blue. Purple glow comes from plasma. Blue, it was strange. But like I said, I think it had to do with Tesla's X-ray technology. By the way, this is an open system. You broke the system by putting the rod down the center. Why? It was attached to nothing. This rod is only attached to wires that I attached to it. I am not connecting to my secondary coil. Let me say that again. I am 100% not connected to any coil. It is broken. It is an air transformer. Just like my primary is not connected to my secondary is connected to the ground. The rod in the center is connected to nothing. Not one wire to it. The only wire that I put to it is the wire here that I pull from it. That's it. So when you say closed system, I've already broken that. Okay, so I'm no longer in a closed system. I'm in an open system. Now, anytime I do this, and I create my little energy well, my energy well is also in an open system. Again, setting this in here, it's open. I'm not connecting anything to it. An open system to an open system. Unity and over unity is 100% available for this because of that. Enclosed locality. Okay. Yes. I cannot tell you how many times this room is filled up full of static electricity. And is it static? Is it scalar? I don't want to say this. It's energy going right through the center of everything. So if I said, here's my coil, it goes in like this in a rotational manner. Also has an ability to push out based on its build. It'll push out this way. It'll also go like this. As this is the most important part. As this comes down into here and does it again, this creates a vortex down here and pushes a vortex out down here. Now, does it have to be open in the center? No, absolutely not. The direction of energy that goes through everything is this energy. Therefore, if you're in your gravity flyer and you create the spin, it's still spinning your vortex on the top, but it's doing it manually. And the energy still flows in a cone down to the center. When I ran the high voltage test, it pinned in the center. But on the bottom, it pinned in the center again. Now you know the vortexes are going in here. What is that saying about the energy that's on the center plate? It's saying that it's going in your field, and the energy here is pulling it in. So now, if I said the field builds, now just understand this. One field builds this way. One goes 180 degrees out to build a field this way. We'll say, well, that's strange. Why would you want that? Well, remember what I'm saying about the center of the gravity flyer earlier and the rod down the center, you're flipping it twice. You normally would build a coil like this in a bifilar manner to flip it twice. Now, why do you want both? In order to create a time dilation field, you need both of those fields. Without it, you get no time dilation. You want to do the experiment, create the device. Your gravity flyer can do it if you know how to connect it correctly. You can create a time dilation field and go out and get you some old clocks. Do not use digital. Do your experiment. Now, do I know that it works? Let me just say that there's some freaky things that go on in this garage. Again, the energy fills up in the room. The room is the capacitance. So if I was saying this is my UFO, my room is the UFO's outside shell. I now have a field inside that I'm building. So when you build the fields inside, it creates the time dilation inside. When you create capacitor plates to the outside of a UFO with bismuth in the center, you are creating geometry in the bismuth based on the frequency when you put it in. If you build it and you let it dry with cold energy going into it, the cold energy will suck in. If you do it with hotter energy, you force it through it. Now, with that said, that's why it's so interesting when you start looking at UFO things. And you say, well, this was on the outside of the craft, but it's two pieces of average aluminum with bismuth in the center. Well, bismuth creates a geometry in the caverns inside of it. In the caverns inside of it. In the room inside of it. It is creating the frequency inside that cavern based on the frequency that you built it with. Now, where is your time dilation field? It's on the outside. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying space-time. I'm not saying it wrong. I'm saying time dilation. What am I saying? You should build your fields. Field, field, fields, field. Okay? Just like if you're standing on the Earth and somebody's in the space station, their time is going to shift a little bit. Thankfully, it doesn't shift that much. But if any of you watch NASA, you know that it does. Now, the field you create is what holds back the Van Allen belt, and it creates a field that holds back all of that energy that's out there. So you say it's radiation. I'm telling you, it's holding back the radiation based on the field. One of the most amazing things about learning fields from a gravity flyer is you learn that fact. time dilation, not space-time. I'm not real familiar with space-time in that way. I know what I build, and it's time dilation. So with that being said, you could be in a different time in your room versus what they are outside. And from my understanding of what I've experienced, it's slower in the inside than it is on the outside. Now, I guess that could be how you hook things up. I don't exactly know. I didn't try it twice. I know that it did it. I know that I felt it. But I don't know any more to tell you than that. Gerald's also done it. He's felt it. He could tell you his own story about it. Totally awesome story. I did it when my daughter comes out and tells me it's, Dad, it's 2 PM. You know, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, well, it was 10 o'clock when I started. What did I do? I mean, I don't think it went that fast. You know what I mean? I was in there for quite a while doing all kinds of experiments and recording them. So it's kind of weird, but I'll leave it at that. It's just strange things happen. I don't even know what I should say it. I'll leave it at that. There's other effects that go on when you start playing with this. And yes, they're true. Yes, join. I don't know who was asking to join. Okay, sorry guys, I'm reading the comments right now. Make it to a game about it, yeah. Bubble in a bubble. Why wouldn't it? Well, that's the way it works. Green, so you've heard about the green fields, have you? Gerald told me specifically do not do the Tesla coil test with multiple ones at the same frequency for that reason. Let's see. That's why we're going to take it slow. Yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah, okay. So hold on. Framework, yes. Okay. You guys have a conversation going on here. I'm trying to read it. There are physics for all this, guys. You'll have to line them up based on what you're seeing here, but they're absolutely physics to explain it. I don't know that they have some of the correct explanation on the negative side, but they did go into it. What defines hot energy? Anything over room temperature. When you put it into a circuit, what it'll do is, I shouldn't just say that. Let me just say this a little more. What defines hot energy versus cold energy? Well, it's the flipping of the field. That's the correct answer. So I say room temperature and stuff like that because based on the experiments I'm doing, as I use temperature to control the system, it would be temperature. So, but if you want to look at it in the circuit form and you say hot energy versus cold energy, it has to do with where your dielectric's headed versus your magnetic field. So if your dielectric's out here and your magnetic field here and your wire's here, that's hot energy. If your magnetic field's here Your dielectric fields here and your wires here, that's cold energy. That's the definition. So how do you know when you're in either one? Well, you can touch cold energy, you cannot touch hot energy. You may get a burn from cold energy, but you will not get shocked. Hot energy, you're going to get all of it. That's pretty much it. That's how it works. I don't know of a better explanation than that. I can tell you, like I said earlier, you want to find the answer to a cold energy circuit, see how many resistors are in the circuit. If you go, okay, I want to pull cold energy, but I want to use a PNP, but in order to get the 0.7 volts necessary to make the PNP switch, I need 0.7 volts. Well, the difference, I should say. The problem is you have to use a resistor to get it. So is a PNP a cold energy circuit? No. If you run an NPN and you run it through the hot side, which is the positive side, through the circuit, and you force it through and pull it back to the negative at the end, you're going to find a lot of over unity circuits that are built with the NPN, but they're not run that way. And you go, well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Well, it does. Well, it does. You have to start thinking of the straw aspect of it. You're going to pull the energy through the cold side. So you're going to pull from that battery on the negative post through the circuit. Now see if it makes sense. You'll find there's not a resistor in there. There's diodes, no resistors. Lot of coiling, no resistors. So you go, well, hold on a minute. There's a lot of those cold energy circuits are over unity circuits that people can't figure out because they put the power in and it doesn't work. Well, did you put it in correctly? That's the biggest question you got to ask yourself. It's the difference between I can read the patent or I know how the patent works. Did you run it in reverse? Like Gerald says, he did a description, he wrote his circuit, right? Cold energy circuit. He goes, man, thing works great. It's awesome. And that's it. That was the end of the video. And I'm like, dude, seriously? Like, what else is to it, right? It was funny because he explained it on the live later, but I always go back to it and give him a little grief because it was hilarious because he just told you to run it in reverse. And I did the same thing you did, by the way. I went out and I told him, no, this goes this way because you're running it this way. This is the way an NPN works, right? All of it. And he laughed right in my face. And he said, buddy, you're not running it right. He said, run it to the cold side, not the hot side. Positive is your hot side, negative is your cold side. You can call them positive or negative energy. You call them hot and cold, same thing. Pulling the cold through the circuit. You're not pulling to the cold. You're pulling the cold through the circuit. Negative through the circuit. That's how it's done. Okay, let's get down here a little bit. I'm so lost in the chat, guys. I really need help with somebody doing this with me. So, yeah, we're kind of, the scalar creates the light when you put another field into it. Gerald's working with that right now. Well, you can build it your way. I'm going to build it the way I've seen it working. We can compare notes in the end. I think that's fair. Is it observable? Gerald pulls 300 out of each 300 volts out of each pickup coil he puts in the center of his coil. He can continuously put coils in there to pick up energy. That is at 12 volts. And I've seen those things go way up beyond 300 volts. Depending on what he wants to get out of that system, he shredded unity. Just shredded it. He has a massive over unity going on in that coil. Trying not to drool in public. Hopefully the show's going well for you guys out there. Hopefully, we're getting through some understandings here. Is there visible lines of force? Well, okay. So let's understand this a little bit. When we put the fields out there, it's not visible to our eyes. Now, like I said earlier, if I were to get some glasses that had the blue spectrum, the red spectrum, so on and so forth, the yellow, I would imagine you might be able to see something. But as far as our naked eye is, you can't. Blue spectrum might be able to pick up this energy. I would like to get a pair of glasses that goes through all the different spectrums that I can switch. And then I'll tell you. I'll be right up front and tell you as soon as I find it. Because I would love to see the fields around my gravity flyer so I can show them to you so that we can all be on the same page. So, like I said, greatest learning tool there is. All you have to do is take the time and effort to put into it to learn it. It is not something that's junk and you throw it away. God, it's not. So much understanding there of just how voltage flows, how it moves from one side to the next, how it creates vortexes, why magnets are in the system, why there are only certain magnets that will work in the system, how you can create mechanical frequency out of a rotating magnet on a plate. All of it's in there. Fields, negative energy through your Tesla coil. All this that I'm doing here today is from that gravity flyer. Some simple understandings explained and understood the right way gets us where we need to go in it. That is the greatest learning tool ever. When you start to play with it like I did, and I've left several testing videos up for you guys on my channel for that, you're going to start to see why I'm saying what I'm saying. And you're going to start to see how I'm manipulating my Tesla coils. So I know a lot of people go, once you set your Tesla coil, man, it's set. That's what the frequency is, right? No, not even close. I could change this thing all day. Again, hook something to your number 2 coil. I can hook this to it. My frequency changes. If I hook a wire to the rod down the center and hook this to it, my frequency changes. If I put something that has its own frequency in it, it now imparts frequency in the top part of my Tesla coil. The top 4 to 6 inches will now become a different frequency than the bottom part of my Tesla coil. It will now become a bifilar Tesla coil by forcing that frequency back into it. You'll never find that unless you do this test. You want to throw a field of Tesla coil field from the cold side? Run it on both those 2 discs. You're going to throw that field out. You want to put a static field on the outside of that, hook it up to the center plate. Man, you'll throw it right across that room. And I'm not even joking, man. I can hang light bulbs on this door, go over to that side of the room and start it up. And I will literally take out my computer, my TV, and everything on the way to light those light bulbs. Because it will literally throw it right across the room. That's an understanding there. One energy pushes the other. Why? Because they're yin and they're yang. Hot energy, cold energy, yin and yang. Got to have both. There was another side to the energy. We just never looked for it. That's why the physicists who have learned this are way ahead of us. The physicists who haven't learned it are still calculating everything in high voltage, so then they calculate everything in gigahertz and, whatever, terahertz, all this stuff. They haven't learned the other side of it. They haven't gotten back to, well, if it's opposite field and opposite understanding, there's only so much room in there, only so much frequency that's going to go through it. Therefore, frequency is going to be inverted versus what it is on the outside to the inside. That must change. It's not, does it change? It must change. Frequency of the earth is real low. The frequency experience in lightning bolts is real high. It changes it. So it's a pretty simple understanding. I mean, I understand it just fine. I hope you guys do. But it's part of why we do things like this, so that you can understand it. So one of the greatest things we're going to figure out when we start doing this, build your coil that has to have multiple fields. Build this coil where the rotational energy works first. This one is not a built energy, it's an effect. This is the built energy. When you build your energy in a shape, that shape will have frequency in the shape itself. It will have octaves in it, have resonance in it. It will put out its own pattern. Each one of them has its own pattern in the shape that you create. Different shapes in there will put different patterns together. When I tell you about putting the frequency in this band versus a bigger band, they come sometimes in the same octave, sometimes they change the octave. It's important. Now, 0 point energy, when you create it, creates transmutation. So, what does that mean? If this part of the field that's going at this time dilation, right here, and this one, at this one, this will be different than this. You will transmutate this and this to different things. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? There is another aspect of this. Again, I'm not allowed to talk to it on YouTube. There's another aspect of this that ties right into it. And absolutely is 100% true. So, it's one of the big missing components about this. It would create a lot of connection of dots. Hopefully you can connect them based on what I'm saying. But it will transmutate. Therefore, when we say the center of the earth is 0 point energy, it is. So what does that tell you? Is there a big molten core in the center? Nope. Sure not. You can go on thinking that way and show me every scientific book in the world, and I understand. I'm telling you, based on the energy and how it works, it's not. There's going to be different geometries in that area. Again, you can't just think of it as a flat geometry. Every flat geometry creates a three-dimensional geometry. Every cavern area creates its own frequency. When you have multiple cavernous areas, you have different frequencies in each one. Let's do a little history here, a little Mayan. You see something that looks like a tree, right? It goes in, has a little round part here, another one here, another one here, another one here. And they say that's the point of creation in Mayan lore, right? And they show you the picture of it. Well, that means that they had cavitation for this frequency, that frequency, that frequency, that one, and that one. And in all of that creates transmutation within inside of it, inside your scalar field, inside your 0 point, inside the earth. That's the understanding of it. It's drawn differently, but it's the same thing. If you take the Ankh, I believe ANK, I believe is what it is. from Egypt, or the Egyptian cross, if you want to call it that. Take it, take another one 180 degrees and put it back on it. You get a vortex on the top, a vortex on the bottom, a bubble that goes around the top, bubble goes around the bottom, and a dividing field in the center. Absolutely what most people believe is in the center of our Earth. Exactly the same type of field that we're looking at here in a 0-point field. They knew it. And it's up to us to look back on it and see why. There wasn't a much more advanced civilization than we are back then. They did things that worked within harmony of the Earth, where we do things that are out of harmony with the Earth. This energy does not work with your computer. This energy does work with crystals, though. It's a pretty interesting thing. There's one crystal that works better than the others, but I prefer to use quartz. I'm trying to get to the understanding of granite and quartz so that I can show people that, so that we can get a closer description to Egypt. We see the sand aspect of it. We see the energy going into the sand and working with it. We understand it'll light up light bulbs just like we see in Egypt. We also know that they're creating a field around that whole thing based on the way they built it. The only question was, is it pulling down the energy from the Earth? Is it pulling water up? Is it forcing pressure upon the Earth to force the liquid water back into the rock of the Earth to lower the water level? I don't know. A lot of those tests will have to be done, but it sure looks like a terraforming device when you get to all the ones around the world. It's strange. Yes, it does sound strange, but if I wanted to terraform a planet and I wanted to change how the fields around it go, the first thing I would do is control the water level inside the planet and how it moves. So either I would do it by forcing it down or pulling it out, and then I might change the moon itself in order to create a tidal effect on the planet, in order to pull the water out. I don't know, it seems like a logical place to start because nukes on Mars is just dumb. Yeah. Here, I don't know. Silica. Yes, we're interacting with the silica and the quartz. Absolutely. Let's see. Does the sand play a part in the orbs and stuff? I don't know that it directly does, because sand needs the quartz in it needs water to activate, which should tell you something, that the whole ocean floor has sand on it, at least most of it. Sand storage. Have you seen the sand heaters? Basically, they heat up the sand and it stores heat in it. Heat converts to energy. So they have them. Good reason for a price hike? Yeah, well, that's funny. Huh. All right. There you go. That's what it was. Pin that. That's right. We're not on a platform that we can talk about this. Well, we can talk about certain things. Can't talk about everything. Have I tried using a crossover? I have not. Signal generator to move frequencies. And no, I want to say this. So here was the comment from Harry. One of the next parts of this, guys, is I want to add more frequencies to it. I want 3. And I want them all to be radio frequency that matches where the resonance point is. I want to amplify it. Now, you can take a piezoelectricity, the little disc, hook it to an ultrasound machine. I have it on my channel, exactly what it looks like and what the parts are. But you can take it and you can amplify this. Now, this rod down the center is hollow. I simply put a wire down the center of it. And the ultrasound machine, when you push the button, when it's in the right frequency, it cuts the negative and it amplifies the signal by double whatever it is. If it's at 160, it'll be at 320. But it'll do it 360 degrees, so top and bottom of the wave will double, not just one side. So how do you find it in there? There's a ring on each side when you turn the dial. If you have your probe right next to it, okay, right there by that toroid in there, you turn it, it'll ring. Turn it back, it'll ring. Now, between those 2 rings is where you're going to find it. Now, you just got to find where it amplifies. There's only one spot, just one. For every single thing that you have hooked in there, one spot. So when you run your gravity flyer, again, remember we talked about beat frequency, same thing, it's going to be one spot. When you find it, it is the only one that'll amplify like this. On your oscilloscope, it looks like somebody took a crayon and drew it and colored it in. But it's not. It's the amplification of it. And it comes out clear as day. I have that one on my channel if you wanted to see that. It's absolutely an awesome understanding of how to amplify cold energy. You're going to have to. Alexa used it to make a jump. That's how he was doing it. He used an amplification, which means that he must have filled that bubble up so that it stays where it is in a hover mode. Really interesting on that, guys. CVS switches at resonant frequency. You have to change the capacitors in it. So see if you see it. These right here, Tesla coil capacitors right here, 0.150 nanofarads on each one. Hook them together, it comes out to 0.075. And that's what I'm using on here. 2 of them. You get them on Amazon, like 20 bucks a piece. You can probably find them cheaper. The board itself, I pay $35 on Amazon for that. That's really all you gotta do. Take out the old capacitors, put in these 2 capacitors, try to make this secondary coil right around 300 kilohertz, and wind this at least a 1/2 inch off all the way around, and put at least 6, 7 windings on there because you never know where you're going to change it at. When you're done, you could put a little clip on there and hold it just like that. I don't generally use that. I just use the clip. I bend the end just slightly so it stays on there. But you can find resonance frequency. What you want to do is find the best resonance on your oscilloscope, the highest level. And you'll see most of them like this, and then they'll jump. Then there'll be one that's really good. Go all the way to the edge of it. So when you put your hand next to it like this, it'll shut it back down. That's the edge of resonance. Move it slightly back, probably about, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Then try it again. If it stays stable when you do that, you're good to go. You're in resonance. That's how you find it. So generally how do I say this? If you build it at 300 kilohertz, you use 1/4 inch copper winding like this, you're generally on your third or fourth winding from the bottom. Okay, one of those two you'll clip it at, and that's right where your resonance will start to begin. You can move it left and right in order to get it to the correct part. Look for the drop off, move it back slightly. Good to go. I did show that, by the way, on my channel, the ZVS board and how to put it in resonance so that you have it. Yeah, we all get a little scared when it comes to this, man. But it's a Christmas gift for you guys out there who watch my channel. You get to understand this stuff finally. In general terms, like I said, translate into physics, man, and you guys will be good. Merry Christmas to all. Right on, man. Link up. All right, guys. It's about 3 hours right now. I'm going to shut it down for the night. I got to go do stuff. Anyway, guys, I'm going to try to do this after the holidays, get through maybe a couple times a week. Maybe it's more talking. Maybe it's more, demonstrations, whatever it is. But you'll see it on there anytime you see Fry It and Find Out Lab. This is what I'll be doing. I'll be standing here taking questions and try to answer as much as I possibly can. I'll also try to show you as many demonstrations as I can. Guys, if you want to become a member on the channel, I put out stuff early for members, and they're able to get some good information early. Some stuff stays on membership if you want to watch it there. But you also get the emojis to put in the chat. You see them all at the bottom there on the screen. You'll be able to put them in the chat. When we do live, man, it's fun. I love putting in the mushrooms one, some of the other stuff, but it's really just something for everybody to have fun. Anyway, with that said, guys, I'll be back on Friday on Mike Faraday's channel, and we're going to be talking some more energy and stuff like that. You'll see it on there, Mike Faraday. And that'll be on Friday. They're usually 6 o'clock my time here in California, so it's usually 9 o'clock his time in Canada. So you figure out where you are, and that's where the time is. Anyway, with that said, guys, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate the new members today, guys. Thank you guys for the stickers and chat money and stuff like that. It's really going to help with buying more stuff. I just bought 5 pounds of wire. I'm going to buy 5 more so we can build more coils and build more stuff. So we'll just keep going with this, guys. Maybe I'll get another camera. I know you guys have been talked about in the chat. Thermal camera. You want to see some more of that. So I'll see what I can't work out, guys. But again, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate it. And have yourself a great day.